for the majority of the laparoscopic surgeries outside of really urology and then some ENT. Is anyone not familiar with the Endoeye? Everybody's seen it, at least knows what it looks like, etc. So I'll show it to you guys. So this is what it looks like coming in the tray. I want to kind of start here. So the biggest thing we've heard from CPD is a lot of the damage is occurring from when it goes back into the tray or when it comes out of the tray to start a case. I'm going to kind of work backwards. So when it goes back in the tray, we've seen a number of issues where other equipment's laid on top of it, and that almost always creates some sort of an issue. It is an incredibly durable scope. You can beat the you-know-what out of these, but it's not 100% durable. And where we see a lot of the damage is right here on kind of where the light cord plugs in. You'll see a lot of fraying, of cutting of wires, and then right here in the middle. Reason is something gets laid on it, cord gets cut, and then it gets sent up to SPD. And if they're, most of the time they're doing a great job looking at it, but if for some reason they miss it or, they've got a million other things to do, it gets reprocessed and then water's getting into the cords and then it's just killing the scope basically 100%. So first and foremost, when you guys are putting these back, make sure nothing gets laid on top of them. I know the trays aren't huge, the carts, excuse me, so worst case, put the cover on top of it, whether it's the metal one or the plastic one, and lay as much as you want on after. That's what it's designed for, but there have been a number of instances where that's not the case and damage occurs. The other big thing is when the scope's going back in, what I've been hearing from a lot of surgeons is, hey, we get the scope, we plug it in, and then I'm in the case and say, I want to go to the left with the scope, and then the scope just slowly starts to float back to the right. The reason is the way these are put into the tray, you essentially need to make sure that like this portion of the camera is not twisted when it goes in. So if you lay it in and it's torqued like that, then it's just slowly bending the wires. Think of it like you would your iPod charging cord. If you just constantly twist that, it's just going to slowly start to fray. Unlike your iPod cord, this isn't going to actually break and show you that it's broken. It's just going to rip everything up on the inside. And that's when sometimes you'll get like, I was in a case last week with thoracic with Dr. Popoff. The screen was green because so much of the wiring and chip damage had occurred that literally the colors were off on it. So that's the other big one is don't let it get torqued in. If you see it torqued in, I know it's a lot of work, but take it back out, put it back in the tray the correct way, because in the long run, it's going to save you guys a ton of headache, money, and time, which gets me to the next part, which is these scopes are roughly between like 18 and 25,000, depending on how much or what type of scope they buy. The average damage for chip damage, wire damage, etc., ranges from about 7 to 12,000. So in theory, you could buy one and then do any sort of repairs. It's about half the cost to repair it. Jeff here can agree to that, obviously. And not only that, it pulls them out of service, and then you guys are down to less scopes, and then surgeons are having to change their practice because, from my understanding, the 5mm seems to be the hot ticket one. That's also the one that's breaking the most. Smaller scope makes sense. So just be aware of that when you're putting them in. Next thing we'll kind of go over is how to actually plug and unplug this. And I know you guys are going to go, wait a minute, that's the simplest thing in the world. It is until you see someone who doesn't know what they're doing and they break it. So I'm going to just show you guys quickly. So when you pull it out, you can kind of work backwards on the numbers. So the light cord goes in first at 1, you wrap it, you kind of just follow the numbers, kind of go in reverse when you're pulling it out. So you take it out of 5, and again, if you're like a scrub or you're sterile, you're going to be the ones really doing this. You're going to take it and you're just going to slowly roll it out. And what you can actually do at this point, once you kind of got a little bit of, slack to it, is pull it out and it'll just kind of slowly unfold itself. The one thing you don't want to do is yank on it. You don't want to unfold it like that because that's, again, going to frail the wires. So if you were to get it and it was all tangled up, you just slowly turn it whichever direction you need to kind of unfray it, and you should be good to go. Again, don't pull it. I've seen a lot of surgeons, and we'll get to that momentarily. Once you're actually ready to plug it in, big thing, always keep these 3 pieces up. Your chip's up there, your light cord's up there. I've seen a lot of people put them down. If they drop, you'd rather have them drop this way and maybe save the scope. If you drop them this way, they're just gonna die. All right, paddle first. Up is up. I'm not making fun of you guys. You should see how many people I've done in services with where I tell them up is up and they plug it in upside down. It won't go in, but I've seen a lot of people just try to slam it in. So go up with it, plug it in, you're good to go. I'll turn this on as well. That's pretty straightforward. The big one is the light cord. So the light cord you're going to want to plug in, and we'll really go over more about how to remove it. You'll plug it in, and you're good to go once the image comes up. Again, you can see it got a little bit tangled, so just make sure it's untangled. Again, a lot of that's going to be on who's ever using it in the sterile field, the surgeon. So they do their case, they're done with their case, they're ready to pass it back to you guys, so to speak. Don't do what the surgeon did last week, and I'm not going to name names, but he was done with the case, and he just set it on the floor. Yep, he set it on the floor, and I just about had a stroke. And the worst part is once he set it on the floor, not only is it no longer able to use, but like half the room can't grab it. Like none of the folks that are scrubbed in can grab it. It's dirty, it's got blood on it. So grabbed some gloves, we picked it up, and I handed it off to a nurse. And then the nurse, who was also newer, just started to do this. She started to walk away. And all of a sudden the tower just started to move behind her. And we were like, oh, okay. So again, I'm not making fun of anybody. I know it's crazy in the OR. I know things happen, but just remember the steps. It's really simple. The surgeon will hand it back to the scrub. They'll say they're done. Got your paddle here. There's a little button on top. It actually says push, but you'll just push it down, pull right out. And then the big one is the light cord. I see a lot of people pull, yank on it. Treat it like you would a hair dryer, a vacuum. Go right in at the cord. There's a little dot right here. Put your thumb kind of right on the dot. Pull out. You're good to go. Keep everything up like this. Pass it back to wherever you need to. Sterilize it down, and then get it back in the tray. Put the cover on the tray. You guys are good to go. Any questions?
Mm-hmm.
I know it's as basic as it seems, but you'd be surprised. They're breaking a lot of them right now. Yes.
Number one, sometimes you're telling us that we put it in wrong, but sometimes CPD sends it back to us, and these trays are cracked.
Okay.
So even when we put them in and we put it in the case, there's nothing we can do to protect the tip of that scope.
Okay.
So I've got many of trays that, I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I've got many of the trays that are the tip of where the scope sit is not there. So how do you
Where the tip is actually
yeah,
gone or
literally
damaged?
that whole tip is gone.
Okay. I will address that with CPD. I met with Pam last week. I will follow up with her because there seems to be a little bit of a disconnect between, to your point, I agree. Either it's getting to CPD and then something's happening at CPD, or it's getting damaged on the way to CPD. But I've been in a lot of the cases. I know how much you guys take care of this stuff, so trust me, I'm not here to blame anybody. I just want to make sure the damage is reduced. So I would say keep doing what you're doing. If you're seeing issues where they're coming back from CPD, tag it and just get it out.
But that, even if we tag it, or, I mean, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But you sent it, you wrapped it, you sterilized
Sure.
it, you wrapped it, and you sent it down to us. And so when we open it, we're like, it's already damaged. So you already sent it the way that tray was. So if we put it in, now we send it back up, now we're gonna get blamed for that tip getting damaged because of how they packaged it and sent it to us.
Right, so I would tell you, you guys have about 70 of these scopes in the hospital. Don't be afraid to, if you get a scope up here that's bad or that you're not comfortable with how it looks, tag it and get it out and ask for a new one. And if someone gives you crap about it, my number's right there. Have them call me directly.
It's just taking those trays out of circulation.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you knew you sent it down like that. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, no,
You
and
knew
trust
you sent
me.
it down like that. We got it, you wrapped it, whatever you did, and then now we got it. Now it goes back up and say it gets damaged, and we get blamed for it.
Yeah, no, I get it. The good news I would say in regards to these trays, these plastic ones are being phased out. You guys are getting metal ones.
Right.
They're a little more durable.
Right.
The best thing I can tell you advice-wise is just try to follow the steps I've told you guys about from getting it out of here. If it comes down to you and it's not the way you guys want it, just make a note of it, and we'll have the same conversation we're having today with you guys with CPD, because I don't want there to be any sort of concerns that, hey, if this comes down and it's not right, I'm going to get blamed for it, you're going to get blamed for it. At the end of the day, we just want the scopes to work, and we want them to be protected.
Time is of the essence.
No doubt.
For us.
No doubt.
So yes, we try to put, the nurses as well as us, the techs, we try to put stuff back, but time is of the essence.
Yeah, and I would say the biggest thing with that is, and trust me, I get it. I've been in a ton of cases. I know you've probably been in a ton times a billion compared to me. And I know how stressful it can be. I know how fast moving it is. The big things I would say, to leave you with are try to avoid the torquing when you're putting it back and try to just put the top back on the tray. I've addressed it with CPD so they know how it should come. If they don't like the way it comes, their job is essentially they're supposed to take it out, re-put it in the tray, and then sterilize it, and they do know that.
As you're telling us, are you telling the surgeons? Because a lot of times.
Yes, so the surgeons are a whole different breed. Stop the video, Kurt.
Yeah,